Definitely thinking about pulling the trigger here at 50%. 50% retracement of this drop down, but it's choppy because there's a lot of support underneath Tesla here. We did short it once it broke up over the top of the pre-market and got weak and broke even on that first trade here. But I'm trying to figure out if I can even get a second trade on Tesla here. 5-minute chart shows a bounce up, a pop up, and it could just simply be a doji day here on the daily chart. You see this, just this flat doji day today. Hourly chart, it's got pressure coming down, which is good for the shorts. But right here, it's struggling at the 20 moving average to get over it on the 15, and it's got a bounce up here looking bullish on the 5-minute chart. So I was really waiting for it to come down below the 5-minute range, and it did. It came back up 50% of that drop. Right here would have been a good short. I was making a note that I almost shorted there. I probably would have got stopped out because I was going to keep my stop very, very tight in case it kept coming up. It might have just been a very small stop loss on it. So yeah, it's too choppy and whippy and can't make up its mind, it looks like. But I'm kind of on the daily. My trading bias is on the daily down, on the hourly down. If it can break lower here and stay below that 20, it'll can get trapped in this area. You want it to really break this trend line going up to really see more downward bearish flag. It bounced off this trend line here. And so if it can't get below this and stay, it could go up for a minute. You know, it could go all the way back up here and push into that 8 moving average on the hourly chart. So I'm not sure if I can even take a trade right now on Tesla. Nvidia is looking like it wants to have a reasonable pullback. It's broken the trend line. It's tested it over here on the hourly chart. It's getting weak on that first hour. And it looks like it's trying to break below previous day's pivot and a moving average support. So it's right at an area where if it's going to break, this is the area it's going to break. And it doesn't mean it's not going to keep going up in the future. It's just time for a breather. You know, you got to eventually have a rest. And if it can break this area right here and hold, it'd be interesting to try a short on it. So I'm watching Nvidia now. It's possible to take a short on Nvidia if it comes up into this area up here, consolidation area, and these moving averages, 50-60% retracement. If it starts to turn red again, that would be an interesting area. It's going to have to come up to the high pivot parts of these pivots here, up into that area right there. It's a possible short. You know, it could bounce right up and go straight up. So I have to keep my stop loss tight on it. So let's see how that works. I almost pulled the trigger on it. I had the wrong account set, and I was hitting the short button right here with my stop loss above the high of that particular candle. So I would have gotten in here, and my stop would have been at the high of that candle. I'm just going over the trade. I did miss it. I'm not going to jump in it now. My thinking was all messed up when I hit the wrong account again. So I would be somewhere short. Let's just be more reasonable, probably right here. And my stop is definitely would be at the high of that candle. That was my plan. And I just want to see if my thinking is, you know, reasonable on this trade. Hopefully, you know, I'm not too far off with ideas. So let's see how this plays out for a good idea. Well, had I had excellent, you know, execution on it, perfect timing, and the order went through. I know this is a lot to look at, but this 100% is where I would have entered the trade. Up here is where my stop loss was, and each one of these is 1-to-1. So it hit all the way down to at least 3-to-1 here on that particular idea. And I really want to, you know, I probably would be broke even by now. At least, and I might even be up here to 1-to-1, at least get a 1-to-1 out of it. Unfortunately, the trade did not go through when I pushed the button, but I like the results of this. Even if it goes back up over the top, this worked out pretty good for a quick trade. I'm very happy about the idea that I had. I just need to get the execution better. Well, it's very reasonable that I probably would have not gotten too greedy and maybe even gotten out on a 5 return or even 4R return on that. So that is great. I'm so happy to see how that worked out. Okay, we have to observe the possibility that Tesla is definitely going to break down. All right, so it's got to break the trend line, the moving average, the pivot, consolidate, and keep pushing. That's what I want. I don't want to get it on the first little push. Let's see if it'll consolidate and keep going. If it breaks through and goes crazy down, I mean, we would need a stop loss area like the top of this candle. If we're going to do a breakdown, we'd want it to be tight stop loss in case it pops back up. If we were to do a breakout, you always want a tight stop loss on the candle that you enter in on. And that way, if you're wrong on the momentum, you get out immediately, like right here. See, you'd be out. That's how simple it would be on that kind of on a trade, without consolidation, without confirmation, to get some kind of a breakdown. To play it safer, we need to wait until it breaks through, and then we want, I'm going to put a mark here at 183.48 where that pivot is, and then we got to wait for it to break through that pivot. And now real quickly, it's important to note that on my first trade short on Tesla, I did it to where my stop loss was above, let's see, I shorted right here and I put my stop above the high of that candle. Okay, when it went down and started coming back up, I think it went to 1-to-1, and when it started coming back up, it did go to 1-to-1, and when it started coming back up, I took my stop loss and put it down on break even. It would have stopped me out for a full risk loss had I not done that. Now it's trying to break low, and I missed my trade again on it, unfortunately. I'll tell you why I missed it. I was just about to pull the trigger on it here. I wanted to check the other stuff. I like this candle right here. If I were to enter in on this trade short, this candle would be my stop loss itself. So the high of my stop loss would be about 183.68. Let's see if that would have worked over here. 183.68. Yep, that candle itself would be my stop loss. Okay, I don't know where my entry would have been. So somewhere on the breakout, my stop loss is right here. Because of this particular candle, has a very good proximity to where a stop loss should be. It's breaking below the moving average and the trend line, and it's pushing. So if it were to snap back up over the top of that candle, that's where the stop loss needs to be. In fact, if it comes up to test, I might have a chance to enter into this thing if it were to come back up and retest. So that's what I would have to wait for now in order to get into this trade. So let's see, did it hit a 1-to-1 yet? No, it's not quite down to a 1-to-1 where I would be breaking even on it, but I probably would keep my stop right where it's at on this one candle until it comes down to this 200% range. And then I would go to break even on that trade. Let's see what happens. Okay, we heard the alarm go off where it hit that stop loss right there, or it hit that area, and it came all the way back up, not quite to the stop loss where the red is at. This would be a good place to potentially short that, because it's the stop loss is ridiculously low on it. So let's see if I do that or not. Okay, I'm taking a chance here. It came back up and tested, and I went short. My stop loss is in the same area, so now I got to readjust these lines here a little bit for where my entry is. Entry is right here, so my target is going to be a little lower now. Let me get that situated real quick. Okay, it has hit target 1, and I am put my stuff on break even at this point here. So I'm going to have a risk-free trade. My stop was, of course, at the top up here. My entry was right here, and so it hit 1-to-1, and I am moving my stop to break even. All right, now if it keeps going, that's great. I hope it does. We won't lose anything on this. A lot of times things, maybe I should just take it, right? Let's take it.
Order filled.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take it 1-to-1. It's coming back up, and I just want a successful trade here. So, oh wow, look what happened in just a blink of an eye. It would have come back and stopped me out. That's where my break even was. That's where my entry was. My stop loss was up here. I brought my stop loss to break even, and it snaps up right after I take 1-to-1 profit on it. Wow, that's amazing. All right, this is the third trade on Tesla. We shorted on the break of moving averages, our moving average strategy, where all time charts have agreed that there is a bearish move. Price is below all the moving averages on all the time charts. Let me show you. This strategy is in my playbook called the moving average strategy, where price is below all the moving averages that I'm using, and it's heading down. That's the hourly chart, 15-minute chart, 5-minute chart. And we entered our trade. Could have entered it much, much higher. Quite frankly, I'd be surprised if it didn't come back and stop me out for break even on this because I entered so low. But we entered in on the break right up here where the white dot is to the short side, stop loss at the top of that pivot. Now we moved our stop from the top of this pivot down to break even now. So if it does come back up, there's no loss on the trade. Right now we're seeing how far it'll go down. Hopefully it'll keep going. All right, I ended up closing everything down for a 1-to-1 on that. So our original stop loss was up here. We entered right here in this red candle, and it went down to 1-to-1. It started coming up with some news. I decided I want to get my 1-to-1, and it's probably going to keep going down for a further target. But 1-to-1 was okay for me on that.